Welcome to the Liz McMullen Show, episode 77. My guest this evening is Stephanie Kusiak. Are you related to the actors?
No, I'm not, but that would be nice.
That would have been epic. I'm so
It would have been.
disappointed. I'm turning around. This interview is over. I had like boombox references and, I was going to play some Peter Gabriel and it's all ruined.
You know what? You can still do that, and I will still be on board.
I like that about you. Um,
Thank you.
so you are in the same boat as me. We're both debut authors this year.
Yes, congratulations to you.
Thank you. And so do you feel all studly that you're in print and shit?
I feel crazy. I can't even explain it. Did you go through that moment of shock where you couldn't believe that it happened at
It's,
all?
well, for me, I worked like this book was took a long time to birth, so it was like finally, and I was in this mad dash to get it finished in time to sell it at the con, GC list.
Gotcha.
So it was like warp speed. But I feel that when you publish something, it means the possibility of a career is possible. It's like, a lot of people want to write a novel or start writing a novel or, have a novel in them or whatever, like
Hmm.
possession. But when it's actually up there and on sale for people to pick up, like I did this. So if I did it once, I can so do it again. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I go through moments of that. It's really funny because I wrote my first short story when I was 12 years old. No
Okay.
joke. And it was horrible. It was horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the moment I felt like the biggest badass in the whole entire world. I'm like, yeah, I strung together those sentences. Those are my paragraphs.
Uh-huh.
But I literally spent 22 years wanting to do this, and
Uh-huh.
you hold on to that want for so long that literally when it finally comes, or at least for me, it was like tantric writing at that point, and I couldn't believe it happened. And I go through those phases where I'll wake up in the morning and I can't believe it happened, and then by the middle of the day I'm like, yeah, this is feeling pretty good, and then I go to sleep in shock again. So I don't know. I mean, eventually I'm hoping
Mm-hmm.
that it'll all feel really real, but at this point it's just all
Well,
fairy tale and rainbows and unicorns. So
do you know I talk about either champagne and lollipops or rainbows and unicorns? Those are two of my phrases that I've never had somebody say them to me.
there you go. And this is what it feels like to be on the receiving end of you.
Oh my God, I can go so many places with that. It's very exciting. Um, but yes, so do you find, because what would you consider this genre-wise, your novel? Well, yeah, you wrote one. What's it called? And
It's
what's it
called Loved
about?
and Lost.
Okay, Loved and Lost. And what's it about?
Yes. It is basically about a couple, Blake and Rachel, and they've been married for 15 years, and an accident tears them apart. And Blake gets to go back and relive her life again from the moment that she met Rachel when they were quite young. I'm 16 years old and in high school, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of just right all of the wrongs in her life, or at least try to, as they race toward that point where that accident happened in the future.
Mm-hmm. Which is very nerve-wracking for those of you who are trying to figure it all out. I write paranormal.
Hmm.
So when I was reading it, you have that kind of, well, you think about synchronicity, you think about timeline, time space continuum,
Hmm.
and I mean, it has to be really challenging because to technically challenging to write the type of book that you did because you have you have what is the present, which is Back to the Future present because there's
Hmm.
teenagers, and
Hmm.
then you have all these vignettes of them as adults, and you kind of get to know who they are and the imperfections that there were in their relationship, because in that first time where you see them together, it's just that, like, warm, as adults, that warm, gooey, hot chocolate chip cookies right out of the oven, they're just perfect
Right.
together, madly in love after 15 years, and then you kind of get to see, the cracks in the paint, so to speak, as you go through. And how did you organize yourself for that? Like, because flashbacks usually are not the best thing because they usually arrest motion.
Right.
But you had this kind of, each point had, each time where you had this flashback, which is a flashback but forward, it's hard to discuss. It doesn't, it's like you're seeing what's happening with them as teenagers, and then you have scenes with them as adults, and pivotal moments and whatnot. How do you
Mhm.
keep organized with those going back and forth without kind of getting confused or sidelined?
It was very divisive that I set them up where it was that they were. I knew that I had to build that kind of love for those characters, and in order to have Blake do everything that it is that Blake does, you really have to have, as a reader, and for myself as a writer, I had to really know what it was that she was fighting for. And I think that real love isn't always that, warm and gushy cookie out of the oven kind of perfection. It's, the cracks and all of the breaks in the foundations that we mend because we want to, and because we work hard for it, and we love each other. And so for me, I found these moments where Blake was doing things that needed to have a provocation, needed to have a reason for her to act that way or do that or feel this passionately. And that was where I inserted those scenes to kind of build that strength of that previous relationship.
Hmm.
And to keep it straight, really, it was editing, over editing, self editing, rewriting it,
Did
putting
you
it
like
back.
have outlines? Did you have anything visual to kind of keep you anchored timeline wise, or?
No, and this is what's so bizarre about my writing style is that I can't really outline because I never go with my first instinct on anything.
Okay.
Um, so it's constantly transitioning and constantly changing, and then I have to go through and do a lot of editing to make sure that I'm staying on point and driving toward that.
Okay.
Um, so that's kind of how that worked. I didn't outline this story at all, actually.
Hmm. So, from just dialing back to what you were saying about relationships, like long-term
Mhm.
relationships, I can't believe how like I feel like I should get some royalties from the movie Moonstruck because it comes up so often in my interviews
Uh-huh.
because it's fascinating storytelling. But like I'm from the Nick Cage version of Love, where he so succinctly says, "Love is not perfect. It ruins your life. It breaks your heart. You know, we're
Hmm.
meant to you love the wrong people. You know." And it's just like
Right.
he has that soliloquy that's just so fucking brilliant, and it's true. And I think it's important to know that love is like that, and not because we're misled by books or movies or whatever, but sometimes you do love the wrong people, or the way that things work out are not perfect, and you make bad choices, or you have clashes, or you tell somebody snap out of it. So
Right.
it's life is a lot more um discontinuous. Like there's lots of things going on, and I think when you're a kid, you're like, oh, you're supposed to find the right person, fall in love with them, spend the rest of your life together. And when I was a kid, like all the adults were saying, oh, people break up too easy and divorce and blah blah blah. They don't understand. I said, well, if you actually told people what it was going to be like, then they'd realize, oh, I'm not fucked up. This relationship is not unsalvageable. I just have to know that
Right.
this is how it works.
Exactly. And I think that, going into relationships with an idea of the fact that it's not going to be perfect and being willing to stick it out is something that's very difficult, and it's something that you really consciously have to commit to. Because it's life is not perfect, and we learn that at a very young age, when you break your favorite toy or you break something in your parents' house. And I've got plenty of stories for my poor mom and things that, me and my brothers did. And I learned really young that nothing is perfect. And, but you have to keep working at it. And it's all about your work ethic and what you're willing to commit from yourself into that to make it work.
Plus, like, life is more like an ocean than a straight line. Things ebb and flow. No
Mhm.
matter what it is in your life, it could be, let's say, as a writer's life, there are times this year where, for 2 months I was writing like 1,000, 3,000 words a day, going towards my
Mhm.
goal of like revamping my plot and finishing the book.
Mhm.
And then there are times when I'm not writing anything, but I know that
Right.
eventually I want, like right now I'm in the part where, all right, I wrote a new chapter and I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm figuring out like my point of view issues, like who's going to be my point of view character, and I'm going to get started. But that's just how it is. And if you have an understanding that your life, your career, and your relationships are going to do that, then you're like, you're going to be really close to your lover. Maybe you'll drift a little bit, or you're just kind of
Right.
focused on life and not really thinking about your relationship. And then you kind of refocus and have like a renaissance period.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing is like you said, it's constantly in transition. There's constantly that ebb and flow. And, as we age, as we grow, you can meet somebody when you're 22, and if you don't make the conscious decision to grow with that person and, allow them to change and allow you to change, then there's no way that in 15 years you're going to be the same person that you were when you were 22 years old. And you have to be able to sort out that we're both going to grow and we're both going to change, but we're going to be okay with that because we're going to do it together and make it a bonding thing
Mm-hmm.
rather than this, wedge between you.
Back to your unusual
Hmm.
story. It's not bad, folks. I really like it. But the storytelling, the most important thing about no matter what you put in a book is that it has to kind of bring the plot along. It has to get you reading, turning the pages and not wanting to put it down. And one of the most important things that has to happen for your characters not to be cardboard characters is they have to grow.
Hmm.
And we have no idea beyond kind of generalization as to how much Blake has to grow and why. And even though you thrust Blake back to when they first met, it's not like It's a Wonderful Life. It's not this, smooth sailing kind of experience where you get to right all your wrongs. Or Peggy Sue Got Married. I think that's a movie that had that kind of Back to the
Hmm.
Future thingamabobber. And that Blake can do square roots in her head, I think is sick.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, no, I was very stoked with that. I was like, anybody who understands that, thank you. You are my people. You are my person because you
I
get
was
it.
like,
The
that
truth.
was sick. That was
Super
sick.
hot. So hot.
That was nerd hot.
Oh yeah.
But Blake really does grow, and what's important is that as the story goes along, she has these epiphanies, and she really grows as a woman in a way that she wouldn't if she did not have to re-examine life, and if she did not have to figure out how to relate to Rachel, as where they are rather than as a culmination of being together for 15 years. And I
Hmm.
feel like she finds herself in the pages of the book. Like she finds who she is and becomes someone worth loving, I think.
Absolutely. And that I think I think it's kind of brought on by the fact that every single person wants to go back and rewrite their story. We all have regrets and things that we do in our life, and we want to go back and fix it, or at least, I mean, that's something that I always wanted to do. I always wanted to go back and fix things and make some kind of crazy idyllic future for myself where, I invested in, Apple and Hewlett Packard and, got out of the mortgage
Microsoft.
market. Exactly. And got out of the mortgage market in, the early 2000s and was able to predict everything. I mean, I would love to have that kind of future where I was able to do that. But I think the real message of the story is that you can't do that. Try as you might, as much as you may want to, even if you're given an opportunity to do that, you can't change the things that made you you, but
Hmm.
you can learn from them and grow.
Well,
And that was the main thing.
there's a book like I read in high school. 'Cause sometimes they're useful. Yeah, it's not all crap. Um, it's and the name of it is by Tom Wolfe, and it was called "You Can't Go Home Again."
Yes.
So, like, the concept of the book was even if you went back in time, it would never be as you remember it.
Right.
And even if you're returning to your home, it's not the same place anymore. You've grown, it's changed and evolved. And I feel that your book was very technically difficult, and I can see that you definitely were polishing the stone with your editing, because I'm not a linear thinker, but I can linear this shit out of something. Like I can circle like the world and then come up
Hmm.
with an outline that's like linear and timeline. Like I was talking to a friend of mine the other night, and she's writing a book. It's a historical.
Okay.
And, even though I was circling the airport a lot, eventually we came up with a really solid linear outline with pivotal, plot points and all that kind of stuff. So I was able to kind of crystallize it into that. And when I was reading your book, I was imagining like the need to kind of have I couldn't do an actual visual timeline on the wall because that would distract me, but I
Hmm.
would I would probably have to have notes as to, okay, this is happening in this chapter here, and it correlates with what happened then, and this is how the character is going to grow. In order for them to grow, they have to reflect on your life.
Hmm.
Blake has to reflect on your life, Blake. It's the only way you're going to grow.
Yes, exactly. And throwing in the Jersey accent makes it 100 times more potent.
Isn't that more
Seriously, you should
awesome?
go
Doesn't
back
that
and
make it
think.
better? It's like it's
This is
like
very good.
it's this, well, I'm a Jersey girl, but also
Right.
like there's this kind of, if you're from the tri-state area, especially if you're like, New Jersey, New York, Staten Island, Brooklyn, anything like that, we all have that common accent, and what's so funny is oftentimes if I'm very angry, I can start getting very Jersey.
You know what? That makes you 100 times scarier. This is a perfect self-defense mechanism. That's incredible. If you came out here to California, got drunk, and got saucy, it would be an I would film it. I would put it up on YouTube. It would be incredible. I would bring you around. I'd be like, you see that dude? He needs to get a talking to. I'd give you a shot and I'd send you for it.
The problem is you don't have to get me to drunk to do this shit.
Oh
Um,
man.
yeah, I was the girl that they always dared to do stuff in high school or even growing up. Even in my 20s, like one of my friends who she was like a go-go dancer and also like a lot of different things with clubs. And she's always thrusting me into contests, like, do the wet t-shirt contest, do the rump shaker contest. She was always throwing me up. I'm like, all right, all right, all right. The answer was never no. I was never like, I won't tell you I wasn't shaking or nervous when doing some things like, going in front of 300 screaming lesbians, and doing your thing. But I worked through the stress and the strain, and I won contests. It was so funny.
That is amazing. I am incredibly envious of that. I think that's amazing. That is I don't even know what to say aside from like I triple dog dare you to fly out here to California and do this shit for me live. Like, that's awesome. You've been triple dog dared. You cannot turn it down.
I
It's
cannot
like
turn
right
that
in your
shit
neck.
down. I can't turn that shit down. Of course
See?
not. See,
I win. We both win. This is incredible. It's
we
so good.
win. It's a win-win situation.
It is.
So, do you predict yourself being a series writer, standalones? Like what's interesting to you as a writer for like your next work in progress if you haven't started it yet?
So, let's see. Series writer or standalone? I
Mm-hmm.
actually have about 8 or 9
Mm-hmm.
stories that are in some phase of almost completed and or is completed.
Mm-hmm.
So I have those, and some are series pieces and some are standalones. It's a pretty even, 50-50 mix on that actually.
What about genre?
Genre. I will write anything that gets my fancy going. So I have sci-fi, I have
Uh-huh.
supernatural, I have straight up romance, I have tech suspense. I have murder mystery. I don't.
I think
I
you're my
want.
soul sister.
I think so too. Like I said, triple dog dare, California shot. Let's do this. But no,
Because I
there's.
have, like, the book that I published was on the shelf, and then and many times picked up and put down again, and then I decided to give it life and whatever, let it live. But I
Yeah, you
have,
birthed it.
yeah, so I have three books on my shelf, and because I don't know if you remember the gaffe about, I can't remember if it was what politician said it, but I have binders of women, he said, because,
Yes.
yes, you remember
Oh my
that?
God. I remember that. I don't remember who it was, but I
I
remember
don't.
being so flabbergasted. Yes.
I have binders of women,
Yeah,
and I
I've
have
never had
binders of women
binders of women.
too. I,
That's pretty studly.
I have I have books like, I have character profiles and plot, stuff put in there, and setting, and like some places I've actually taken photographs of or visited to, and so I have things, some of which are almost completely written in in all the planning form, and then I just actually have to write it, and each one has some level of manuscript actually written, but honestly, in revamping the book that I published, it's really best to just start from scratch than try and elevate something that you've written, 5 or 6 years ago to the quality writing that you're writing today.
I absolutely agree with that. It is, it's so hard to take something that was a rough draft previously
Uh-huh.
and try and go through and revamp it if you have a totally different writing style. And
And we all hope we grow, don't we
right.
all hope we grow? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you stop growing, you stop living, says my mother, the teacher. So,
Uh-huh.
it's definitely you always have to grow and learn from other people, and I try and do that with my writing, most definitely, and as you do too, which is why it makes it hard to go
Uh-huh.
back and re-edit something, because that's crazy and difficult, and sometimes, like you said, it's better to just start from fresh and pretend like it never
And the
happened.
other thing is,
There's
like, like I said, I'm not a linear thinker. And
mhm,
so intentionally, I do linear thinker things to keep me anchored. And so, but the problem is, like, I so developed in, and I think there are three different novels, so developed in planning that I almost worry that my execution is not going to live up to my plan. And so my next project, well, I have a work in progress right now that's a sequel to my debut, which
mhm.
is completely from scratch, and that's so freeing. And then I have that other book that's pretty much all the way written, and now that I have, like, I published a short story first, which gave me the faith that I can actually publish my novel. So I published my novel, and now I was like, all right, now I can man up, take that binder and all the goodies in there and all the planning in there, and actually write the damn book and get it into print.
Right. You know what I just realized? You have binders of women.
I have binders of women.
You know what? That's I'm so proud of you. That's incredible.
It's a little less offensive when you're a lesbian.
Oh yeah, well everything's a little less offensive when you're a lesbian. You could totally slap someone's ass and get
Oh,
away with it and do the glance, the
dude,
long
some of my
glance.
friends, like, let me motorboat them. That's how awesome they are.
Are you serious?
I have one.
I have one friend that got breast implants that
Uh-huh.
he like constantly
They
tries
make you
to
touch
like
them.
get me to touch them.
Yes, they
I'm
make you
the
touch
only
them.
person out of my group of maybe like 50 friends who has not, and I don't know if that's because I'm so slick that I'm able to avoid it,
It's kind of
or
creepy because,
I'm
and they make you do it, and I've had two, like, when one friend got it done, and then another friend got it done, and the thing is, like, it's like I was so freaked out by the concept of, like, actually touching my friend to truly experience and feel her up, that, like, I have no sensation in my hands. Like, I did not have a sensual experience when I touched their breasts. They're like, Liz, it's
just in case
okay.
they're listening to this, we're gonna just say it together. She did not get off
I
on
did not
touching
get
your
off
lips.
on it. It was not okay. And then my one friend, who, she's just, she's so breathtaking beautiful. She's Egyptian, and she's a
Oh
go-go
wow.
dancer and a belly dancer. And she needed help getting into the belly dance bra.
Mm-hmm.
So she had to hold her implants up, and I was getting nervous, and I was trying to clasp it because there's like a clasp that goes, it's a front clasp thing. And I was
Gotcha.
trying to, she's like, Lizzie? I'm like, yeah. Breathe. It's okay. It's okay
It's
if you
okay.
touch me. And I was like, I know it's okay, but I feel weird.
That's
I'm not,
that's pretty epic from the girl who like will get up in 300 screaming fans and like make it happen. You're like, I can't clasp a
I
like
can't clasp your
goddess.
boobs. Like I can feel, I can like be the, I can be somebody's belly dancer or go-go dancer. I can give lap dances, do all sorts of wild things, do wet t-shirt contests, and the whole lot of it, which I haven't done since my 20s, and I'm almost 40. Well, I'm 37. Anyway, but I could do that, but I just couldn't touch her. I just couldn't touch her boobies. I've had strangers ask me to do that, or people who I'm casually, like, my friend had the opening of her club night,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my friends was there, and she used to be a dancer, and she's very petite,
Mm-hmm.
and she had very cute pert little boobies, and her friend was very busty, and she's like, feel mine and feel mine. I was like, okay, that's cool, yeah, there's this one and that one, and it was all good. And like I've judged fake v real first, visually and hand wise. This happens like in the dressing room, where all the go-go dancers were hanging out, and that was
Right.
awesome. But I got all on Twitter when my friend made me touch her boobies.
That's incredible. And I want to tell you, the visual that I had with you telling that story was absolutely epic. Like, it was you with this huge smile, like daintily, like touching, like, I don't know, like you're checking fruit at the grocery store. It was pretty. It was great.
It's like eventually this shit is gonna show up on my books. It has to.
It has to. Well, everything you do in your life is going to go into your
Oh
books, right?
yeah. Oh yeah. And
Everything I see, every weird thing that I think, I'm like, that shit's going in a book.
yeah, and
Everybody
the
who
thing is
pisses
like
me off, too. Someday I'm going to write a book where I just, like, mass kill people. And I'm going to be like, all of you people that made me mad, this is all you. You have no idea.
oddly enough, If I Die Before I Wake, my novel had
Mm-hmm.
was when I originally wrote it, the premise was the character was living out in her, fantasy or dream,
Mm-hmm.
not what she thought was not in real life, and
Right.
was getting back at people who had wronged her.
Mm-hmm.
Like really severe bad getting back, stuff. And then
Right.
I realized that, unfortunately, like I knew the character and I thought she was awesome, amazing person, but I was like, this makes her look like, she has like an inner sociopath, so that wasn't working. So it took a lot to kind of massage the plot into something that people could get into, and I took a lot of the torture scenes out, so there was only like really one or two, and because lesbians weren't going to go for it, I knew it. It's like
Gotcha.
this is not going to go over well. This is
See,
not
we
going to
can,
work.
there's some things that we can all do in our head, but once you commit it to writing, you're like, wow, I'm really fucked up. I
Yeah, you.
cannot write
I was
that,
just like, I'm a sick puppy. What is going on
Yeah,
here? Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
okay. We're all privately insane. It's totally cool.
But
It's just
unfortunately, you're being publicly insane with me via my radio show.
that is true. So, word to the wise: don't make me mad. You'll end up in one of my books.
Word to your mother.
Actually, I had a coworker say that he did something, and he's like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry. I made a mistake." And I was like, "Don't worry about it." He's like, "Don't write me into one of your books and kill me." Like,
Oh no!
he full on said that, and I was like, I would never.
Well,
Maybe not do that
yet. You haven't done anything
yet.
yet.
Yet, when I'm 65 and I don't give a rat's ass about what people think about me, then maybe you and I will have a talk between the pages.
Well, my mom calls it fuck you 50. That when you turn
Mm-hmm.
50, you're just like, fuck it. You're not worried about what people think about you or
Yeah.
whatever. And you just say whatever you want to say. And then when you're like in your 70s and 80s, you will say anything. You just like, like they get to an age where you're just like, can you believe what they just. Look. They're like 70 or 80 years old. They can say whatever the fuck they want. They earned it.
Exactly. I think it totally it comes with age, not just because of the fact that you have that wisdom to just turn around and do it. It's because people will let you.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, look, she's like 75. She probably has dementia. She has no idea what she just said. My grandmother became like the smartest mouthed lady I've ever met in my life when she got, like of a venerable age. She's 92 now, so she's amazing. But
Mm-hmm.
she was sharp as a tack too for many, many years, and she would just say whatever in the hell she felt like. And I was horrified by some of the stuff, and I'd like scramble to make excuses, and then I realized, wow, nobody really gives a shit because they just think that she's crazy. And that's where I want to get to. I want people to be like, she's a crazy old lady, and I can say what I really feel
And
and
I'll be
make
like,
honest observations.
I'll be like, you know what? You may not believe me, kitties, but the shit I am saying is true.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They'll be like,
I want to do that, and I also want to be that little old lady that like sits on my porch in a rocking chair drinking sweet tea because for whatever reason I want to move to the South and drink sweet tea. But I want to be that person and like yell at kids to get off my lawn when they're on like my neighbor's lawn. Like I kind of want to screw around with people too and like do crazy shit even though I'm totally sane and see if I can get away with it.
do you know my character, my work in progress?
Mm-hmm.
She's a Southerner, and I actually had a line where, going back on her Southern roots, she provided her with some sweet tea.
This is all truth. It is all truth, and truth is stranger than fiction. So yes.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
indeedy. I think, because we're coming to the end of our time, I think that people will dig your story. It's not an easy emotional journey, but I think it is a page turner, and there not a lot. I mean, some romances are page turners and others aren't. And this one's incredibly complex, and I'm impressed,
Oh,
honestly. It's like you
thank you.
can't believe you pulled that shit off, because you could have totally fucked that up.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. And it was, if you think that one was wild, just wait because the sequel
Uh-huh.
is has Rachel coming back. So,
Fresh,
yeah.
she's so fresh, exciting.
Exciting. So we'll see what happens when all of these timelines converge.
I know, and brains, just like explode, like.
Exactly. Uh, the goal, honestly, is to not cause brain melting. So hopefully, just my brain melts trying to get it all together,
It like
and
melts and
then yeah,
oozes on the
exactly.
page. Isn't that a beautiful thought?
Yeah. See, while you guys all enjoy the story, I will be a vegetable somewhere, having given everything I can to this, and
Aww.
my living trust will take care of me. Don't worry about it.
See, that's how much she loves you, readers. So you got to read her book if she's really willing to go catatonic for her art. Like.
Yeah, right. There you go. Although I may go catatonic if you did do the triple dog dare and you did come out here and do all of that stuff, I would just be in shock. So
You would just be
that
like,
would level me. That
I
would do
just
it.
like hand you, a nice tall glass of sweet tea. You can, you can kick back and relax and enjoy the show.
There you go. Absolutely. Popcorn. I'm down. Let's do it.
It's been brought in.
I'm expecting this now. I really am. And if it doesn't happen by Christmas, I don't even know what to say to you. I will have to call you every day and be like, "Hi, miss me? Where are you?"
I have my dress picked out and everything.
Okay, see, you guys heard it here. She has a dress picked out. She's coming to California to create a ruckus.
Oh my lord. It's been a fantastic journey with you,
Thank
Stephanie. So thank you for coming on the show.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Liz. And it's been really fun. I found my soul sister. I'm super excited.